Dennis, you want to start and just talk about your grandparents and your grandmother that made the quilt? And
well, it was both of my grandparents moved into this valley in 1914. So consequently, we're like the groundhogs. We've never left this area. We still have our same burrs.
nobody has hunted you out yet.
Not yet, no. But
Now, but the Fenders have been in this part of the county for a long time, right?
yeah, my on the Fender side, Hen Fender came over from Germany sometime in the early 1800s, probably in the 1830s or something like that. So, but where we're sitting right now, my great-grandfather bought this farm in 1914, and then after my grandfather died, my dad got a hold of 20-some acres here. And then my mother and dad, when they got married, they moved into the log house out here. And our living room was so small that when we had visitors come, my mother complained we all sat around the perimeter of the living room and our feet were in the middle.
It was your dad's mother that made the...
Yeah, Grandma Fender. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we'd go over there quite a lot to visit, and they always had visitors. And one of the primary functions was Grandma would get her quilts out. And we'd open up the quilts, and there'd be all these ladies holding these quilts out in the corners and looking at it. And I always thought it'd be kind of neat to jump in there, you know.
Did you contain yourself, or?
No, I never got. Yeah. I knew better than I didn't do that kind of stuff.
Do that.
You don't do that stuff. When I grew up under a strict authorization there, you didn't mess around. But Grandma made a lot of pillowcases and doilies and stuff like this too. And but my grandpa would draw pictures for her embroidery. But he died when I was just a couple days after my 5th birthday, so I don't. A lot of this stuff's fading away from me.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a great guy. He used to dance with me when I was a little kid. I thought that was wonderful. I had an Amish neighbor showed me a postcard that my grandmother had sent to Mrs. John Raber back about the time of World War I. And she said, "You come down and see my pretty flowers." She was great for flowers. She had a posy room built on the house. Have you ever heard of a posy room?
No.
She wanted a room that was out from the rest of the house, that you had windows on both sides and on one side. So she had a lot of sunlight in there. And my dad was never fond of it because he said it's just a situation to lose a lot of heat out of your house.
And she grew flowers in there?
Oh, yeah. And when somebody came, they had to go look at the flowers. Heck yes, that was her interest, flowers and quilts.
And quilts.
And
your grandfather drew birds and
rabbits
and
flowers.
And did he also help do the designs for the quilting designs for your grandmother, do you know?
Oh, I'm sure he did.
I think so.
I'm sure he did. Back in those days, they didn't watch television. They had more time to do that kind of stuff.
He drew a lot of birds. Because we have some of that stuff around here that was basically what he drew.
He used to draw for me, and I don't have any of those pictures anymore.
Well, I'm
I
sure
had a yellow tablet. I remember he drew pictures on it, but it's missing.
It's probably still over there in Steve's house.
No, I don't think so. It's probably never got that far.
Oh.
You know, that family was musically oriented, and I think Grandpa might have played a little guitar or something like that. But my dad and George both played accordions, and they were good, really good. And my grandpa's sister, Emmy, she played the organ and piano and stuff like that, and her boys played musical instruments. And her brother Victor Fender played the violin, and her brother Irvin played the organ. And after my dad bought this place over there at First Spring, we had an organization here in Coshocton County called Orico, Older Rural Youth. But we had a square dance in the barn over there. We cleaned everything up, and up on top of the granary was the bandstand. And my dad, this was one of the last times they got together. But my dad played accordion, my Uncle George played accordion, my great uncle Victor Fender played the violin, and a neighbor, Darrell Flinner, played the banjo. And would I give something if I could have a recording of that?
Yeah. Now that's in the barn with the
Yeah.
quilt square on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the upper part where the quilt square is. It was in that upper part, and to the right is where the
Granary.
granary was, and there was just a platform like over the granary where they could sit on top of it.
Yeah, we had a
It was 1948.
step ladder there for these gentlemen to get up on the granary, and in the meantime, down below we were selling hot dogs out of the granary, and we had that was a good time.
That would have been in 48. 1948.
That's when we first started dating. Been dating that gal for 60 years.
She's a good woman.
Better believe it.
So Janet, you spend time with women at your church quilting still?
Mm-hmm. Every Monday night. And we rarely miss. In the wintertime, sometimes they'll quilt during the day, but mostly in the evenings. Years ago, when they used to quilt during the day, and they would pack up the quilt frames and the quilt, they'd roll the quilt on the rollers, and then take it from house to house and spend the whole day quilting. They'd set the frame up, have a covered dish, and quilt about 4 o'clock, and roll it back up. And I don't know where they stored it. I really don't, but they probably in someone's house. Now then, the next month they'd take it to the next house and set it up, and they'd have a guild meeting and quilt. And like I told you, the money we get from our quilts is basically all used for Dress a Child or the Salvation Army Christmas funds, and we gave close to $800 last year.